Salve, hello. I'm so glad you're here today. Who's your teacher? In my home, I'm the magistra, the teacher. Magistra is the Latin word for female teacher. We teach our 3 children at home. When my husband's doing the teaching, he's their magister, which is the word for male teacher. How do you greet your teacher or your magistra? Do you say, howdy, or hey there, or do you say nothing at all? I hope you politely say, salve, hello. We have 3 children, and so they are our discipuli, which is the word for more than one student or students. So when I greet my students in the morning, I say, salve discipuli. Now finally, the word for goodbye is vale. So when we all have to part our separate ways, we can say vale to one another. And I'll say that to you now. Vale, I hope you'll come back soon.
Say salve, Simeon.
Salve, Simeon.
No, that's not what I meant, you silly monkey.
Hi, students. Whenever you're learning a new language, one of the first things you want to do is figure out what the alphabet is. Does anybody know how many letters are in the English alphabet? If you said 26, you're right. In Latin, the alphabet is the same as the English alphabet, except for a few tiny differences. Those who use the ecclesiastical pronunciation of Latin have 25 letters in their alphabet, so they just leave out the letter W. There's no W in the Latin alphabet, so there's 25 letters. Now those who use the classical pronunciation, they leave out the W, and they also do not use a J. In place of a J, they use an I. So in the classical Latin alphabet, there are 24 letters. They don't use a W or a J. So now you know the Latin alphabet.
Classical Academic Press presents My Pet Monkey. Once upon a time, in a small classroom down off 3rd and Maple, show and tell was about to start. A small freckled boy named Franklin Frederickson was first to share today. He was excited. He was so excited that he had asked his teacher earlier that day if he might go first during show and tell. "You'll never guess what my parents are letting me buy," exclaimed Franklin. His magister kindly interrupted. "Remember, first greet the class, then tell them your name." "Oh yeah, sorry, magister. Salve discipuli. My name is Franklin, and my parents have let me order a mail order pet. This is no ordinary pet, but a very special pet." One of Franklin's fellow classmates interjected. "Is it a turtle?" "No, it's not a turtle. It's an African pompano fish." Franklin held out a page from the pet catalog. The class oohed and awed. Another student asked, "What are you going to name your fish?" Franklin had to think about that. Then he answered, I'll name him Sam." "Are there any other questions, discipuli?" the magister chimed in. "Vale," Franklin said as he took his seat. The stop sign on the school bus swung out as the vehicle came to a stop. Franklin jumped from the bus and raced all the way home. Inside, his mother greeted him. "Salve, Franklin." "Salve, Mom. Did my package arrive yet?" "Something did come for you now that I come to think of it," she replied. "It's in your bedroom." Franklin let out a whoop as he raced off for his room. Well, salve or salve. Discipuli? It's great to have you along for this derivative river section of the Song School Latin course. Here in the derivative river, we are going to be taking, as it were, a boat ride down this wonderful river called Latin. The word rivus means river, and the word de means down. So to go down the river with me is to study derivatives. That's right. We're going to be learning how the Latin language has given birth to all kinds of words in English and also in Spanish and in French. Did you know, for example, that about 50%, half of the words that you speak in English come from Latin? And did you know that it's something like 80 to 90% of the 2 or 3 or 4 syllable words that you speak come from Latin? So Latin is a great source for English words. If you learn sometimes 1 or 2 Latin words, you can learn 4 or 5 or 6 English words from them. And if you study French or Spanish, you will find that about 90% of the words that you learn in Latin are also present in some form in Spanish or French. And that's also true for Italian and Portuguese and Romanian. So we're going to be riding this Latin river. And here we are in chapter 1. And one of the first words we're going to look at is salve or salve, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, and the English words or derivatives that come from them. An English word that is a derivative is a word that comes from another Latin word, which we might call a root word. Okay, so let's take a look at salve or salve. Salve means hello, but it really literally means be safe. And there's another Latin word, salvus or salvus, which does mean safe. And our English word safe comes from salvus or salvus. We also get the English word salvation. And salvation has to do with being made safe, being saved from something that might be bad or undesirable. So salvation means being saved. So you can imagine someone who's drowning in sea being pulled out by a rope from someone in a boat or a ship. That person has been saved, has experienced salvation. And in Christian theology, salvation refers to being forgiven, saved from the judgment of a person's sin. So salvation is an English derivative. And then there's the word El Salvador. El Salvador is a Spanish word. So here's a Latin word coming into Spanish. El Salvador is a little country in Central America, and it has a capital named San Salvador. Well, El Salvador means the Savior, and it's making a reference to Jesus Christ, and San Salvador means Holy Savior. So Spanish words are also derived from Latin. Well, let's take a look at vale. If salve means hello or salve, vale or vale means goodbye, and it means to be strong. So the way the Romans would say goodbye is something like, be strong, take care, be well. And so from vale, we get the word valiant. Valiant means someone who is strong and brave, like a warrior or a soldier going into battle. We also get the word value. Value should be something that characterize you as a strong person and characterize your strength as a person. And valid is another word that also comes from vale or vale. Something is valid, it's true, it's confirmed. Then from discipuli or discipuli, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation, we get the English word disciple. So discipulus or discipuli can mean student, but the word disciple is a kind of student in English, but it's a more intense student, someone who's actually following another person around. So a great teacher might have disciples who would follow him. Christ had disciples who followed him, and other religious leaders had disciples who followed them. We also get the English word discipline from discipules related to that. The French word for disciple is spelled exactly like our English word, but it's pronounced differently. It would be pronounced something like disciple. And then we have the word magister and magistra, or magister and magistra, if you're using the ecclesiastical pronunciation. These are words for our male and female teacher, right? Well, from magister or magister, we get our English word magistrate, which is a kind of a judge who decides between parties and administers the law, makes judgments about the law. And we get the word magisterial. And to be magisterial means to be authoritative and teacher-like. So here we are, studying derivatives from chapter 1, and we've seen already some 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 derivatives from the 4 Latin words that you've learned in chapter 1. That's a pretty good investment. You're learning a lot of English words for these Latin words, and you're learning some French and Spanish words as well. Well, that's great. That'll conclude our derivative river for chapter 1. I'll see you next week for more derivatives at chapter 2.